Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are going to get started in just a moment. It is 1:30. I want to give time just to see if anybody else has gotten caught up with anything and is jumping on late. So we'll give them just one more minute before we start. Okay, let's go ahead and just jump in. So welcome everybody. Glad you are here with us this afternoon. My name is Catherine Wilhoit, for those of you who do not know me. I am with Oklahoma Career Tech, and I am your OK Career Guide gal. So any questions you have for OK Career Guide, feel free to contact me at any point. I am keeping track of who is present, and so I will send you a follow-up email after we're done so that you have all the resources and everything that we discuss, and you'll have my contact info that way as well. And so bear with me, I'm keeping track of who shows up on the Zoom as we go. So what we're going to do today is we are going to be covering assessments specifically within OK Career Guide. And so that's really what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to show you the student side and I'm going to show you the admin side. And okay, whoever is here for, okay, Ashley, Ashley, what I'll do is let me throw my email in. Or Ashley, you know what you could do is you can either send it in this chat or send it just to me, whatever your email is, and I'll make note of that. And then I'll send you the email afterwards, and I'll include Angela just in case she wants the information too. I'm also hoping to send the recording. A lot of people ask for the recording afterwards, and so I plan to upload this to YouTube, and I'll include that as well just in case Angela, perfect, thank you. Just in case Angela wants to go back and watch it if she has time. So okay, perfect. So we are going to look at the student side and kind of break down what their assessments look like. And then we will look at the admin side as well. And I'm also going to cover some resources that you can use with your students, no matter what population you serve. And so we will go through that together. So let's get started. I am going to be sharing my screen with you. And so feel free to walk along with me if you would like to. You are more than welcome to, or you can just watch, whatever is easiest for you. But we're going to start on okcareerguide.org, okcareerguide.com. Either place will take you to the same site, and you will see this. And so if you don't already, most of you probably do, but if you don't already have a mock or fake student account, I would encourage you to create that. And so all you have to do to create a fake student account is click create an account, and you will select a student account specifically. So a middle or high school student, college student if you work closely with college students, adult technology center student if you are with a tech center, adult learning center student, workforce center, or adult job seeker and career changer. A lot of folks want to go straight to administrator or educator because that is what you are. However, that will not give you access to the student view account. It will only give you access to what I call the back end, which is the admin account. We are going to go through the admin account today, but if you don't have a student account, please select whatever is associated best with the student population or the adult population you work with. So go ahead and do that. If you haven't already, and if you have questions, throw them in the chat. Please feel free to throw anything in the chat that you have questions for, or unmute and chat with me. So the first place we're going to go is we are going to go to OKCG login. That is where your students will log in every time they go into their student account, unless you use Clever. So if you use Clever, they will go here. You probably already know that, but just covering bases. So we're going to go OKCG login, and we are going to look at the student side today. So, and for some reason, it's been kicking me out whenever I log in, and I don't know if it's the browser I'm using. So it may do that to you. I apologize if it does. But again, we're going to focus on the 3 assessments that you see right here. Those are going to be our 3 focuses today. But I do want to add, and I try to include this information in every training I do. You always want your students every single year that they log in. So if they are 6th through 12th graders, you will want them to go in and update their account settings. If they are adults, meaning college, tech center student, workforce center, adult learning center, any of that population of folks, they can also make sure that their account is up to date. But for the most part, those students don't change. Your high school and middle school students will probably change over time. So the way to do this is students will go to account settings up here in the top. So they'll click up on the right part of their name and go to account settings. And they want to make sure that their school information is correct and that their grade is correct. If either of those are not correct, then they will not be on the reporting side for you. They will not show up for you. And so dependent on where the student is coming from, whether that's a high school or a tech center or a college, they will need to make sure that school information is correct. If they are with a workforce center, it should have their workforce center, and so forth and so on. Same with learning center. And so feel free to have them double check that every time. Account settings right here. They also can switch to Spanish right here at any point. They can click back and forth between English and Spanish. And so going back home, we are going to look at the 3 assessments. If you have never taken these, I would highly encourage you to do so. And so definitely want you to dig into those, see what the student sees. The questions are very simple. In totality, it should take your students no more than 20 minutes, 25 maybe, to complete all 3 assessments. And so it is not time consuming, it's not demanding, it's not going to be a headache for them to do. And so please encourage your students to take all 3. By ICAP standards, if we're talking ICAP, they only have to technically take 1, but you may encourage them to take all 3. I think that is beneficial to see how they grow over time. So and I didn't put a poll up, but based on the folks that I see are here, we do have a couple that are with tech centers, but most of you are with public schools. And so that kind of gives me an idea of where you're coming from. And so with that being said, if you are working with ICAP, they only need to do 1 a year. Again, I would encourage 3 each year, but starting at 6th grade level, if you work with 6th graders, 7th graders, or 8th graders, 6th graders have access to the interest assessment. So to show you what the 6th grade account looks like, they have access to the interest assessment, which will only take them 5 to 7 minutes to take. If they are in 7th or 8th grade, they have access to the interest assessment and the skills confidence assessment. So that's for our 7th and our 8th graders. And then for our 9th through 12th and our adult students or adult populations, they will have access to all 3: interest, skills confidence, and work values. So career interest, this is going to tell them what they believe based on how they answered the assessment questions are the most interesting types of careers for their personality, so to speak. And it is going to base it off of the way they answer questions such as, I want to help people. I want to work with students at an educational level, things like that. So it's going to ask them specific questions. Now, skills confidence is exactly what it sounds like. It is going to help them have an understanding of what they feel like they are strong in. So for me, and if you have done this, compare it to you and yourself and what you know of yourself. For me, it is saying, consumer services is top for me. It is saying human resources is top for me. I have never worked in either of those fields, but it gives me an idea that maybe that's something I could look at in the future if it's an interest of mine. We'll come back to those in just a moment, but I wanted you to see those. I messed up my work values earlier this morning, showing people what that looks like, but I will go ahead and show you just in case you've never seen it. It gives them a Likert scale for all three assessments, ranging from not important all the way to crucial. And so it'll ask them, how important is it where I have a job that I have feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day, have good interactions with fellow workers, can try out new ideas, get a raise. So it really helps them measure what is most important to them within a job. And so I'm going to start with going in detail to our career interest assessment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into it, click into the box, and it's going to load by students' top career pathways. Okay, so our top 5 pathways. Now, one thing that's important to recognize is that this pulls from career clusters. Most people know what career clusters are. They are national career clusters. I'm going to show them to you here on the screen, just in case you are not familiar. So we have 6 career fields, and underneath those are 6 clusters that fall within those fields. And so if you see green, that is going to definitely be heavy in our ag, food, and natural resources side. Red is going to be health science. And then, of course, kind of this yellowish golden color, that's our communication and IT. This magenta color is going to be more of our hands-on tactile folks. And so those are people who may want to work in manufacturing, automotive, transportation, STEM, or architecture and construction. This kind of minty color is our marketing, finance, management, hospitality. And then finally, our purple is human services, law, government, education, training. Most of you will probably fall within that purplish color. And so keep that in mind. If you take it, a lot of you probably will fall within that, but you may have others peek through, depending on how, your past careers play into what you're doing now and so forth. Now, we actually do as a state have a 17th cluster, which is our energy cluster. Think of this as our oil, gas, anybody who maybe wants to go into petroleum. And so I personally have never seen this pop up on a student's account, but I would be curious to see for those that maybe want to go into the oil field, if that would show up for them, and it should. And so it kind of blends with the communication and IT. So that's something to pay attention to. If you see that color, know that that orangish kind of color is our energy field. And so you can have students view their top career pathways, or they can view by national cluster ranking over here. And so I will show you how to pull this information on the back end to see what your students see. And I'm going to keep track of who's popping in as I do this. So I may be off, but go ahead and take a look. If you are in your own account, take a look at what yours look like and do some comparison to that. Okay, and give me just a moment as we do this. Okay, perfect. Making sure I have everybody accounted for so I can send you all the information afterwards. So you can see for me, my national cluster ranking, and again, if you look at yours, it should be similar, should show you all 16. You can see I don't have a 17th. Energy does not play a role in the way I answered my assessment questions. But this is really valuable when it comes to utilizing this for a career development, career coaching time, just because if I came to you as a a student and I said, hey, I think I'm going to go to my local tech center and study construction. That's what I want to do. This could be an opportunity to look at my assessment results on the back end and say, are you sure, Catherine, that that's exactly what you want to do? And of course, you can totally word that differently, dependent on the student, and work through that with the student. But it's going to give you that opportunity to have a conversation with them in detail about their assessment results versus what they're telling you. And I know I see Melissa Dyer from More Normans on the call, and so I'm going to utilize them for a minute. I know More Norman Technology Center is hoping to introduce cluster rankings into their admission process. So this may be something that our tech centers begin to utilize as well, so that they can compare what the student's program interest is in comparison to the way they answer their assessment and their cluster ranking. So that is another example where if I told Melissa at More Norman that I wanted to do construction and it's my number 16, it can be an opportunity for discussion of if that is my true interest or not. But going back to the top 5 pathways, you can click all through here and look at different occupations to explore by all 5 pathways. So it's going to show a variety of careers. It will show some sample ed plans. You're welcome to look through that. So for me, I could look at business. If I was interested in going into management, I could click through and look at the different management options. So I could see, information management, HR, operations, more the administrative pathway. And so that takes us to our ACTE page, our advanced CTE page, excuse me. And so students can look through that. They can look at majors to explore based on their assessment results for the interests. And so they will want to make sure that their education level is correct. If it is not correct, so I'll give an example. One of our counselors at a high school had hers set at high school. And when she applied that, very few opportunities came up for her. But when she moved it to master's degree, because that's what she technically has, and she answered her assessment based on the fact that she has a master's degree, a whole lot more came up. So at high school level, only 18 entries came up. At master's degree level for me, because that's how I answered my assessments, 45 entries come up. And so I can dig through this and see what is interesting to me. And so if you compare this to your own results, you will see it's really accurate as long as the student does take the assessment and answer in the best of their ability. Because for me, I have been a career coach at a college. I have been an advisor at a college. I have studied psychology. I have worked with adults. I have worked with 8th through 12th grade students. And so this is really very, very true for me. And so I think you will find the same for you as well as you go through. So I haven't even gotten to page 3 here, but if I were to keep going, I could see, would I be interested in ministry? Higher education is definitely an interest of mine, elementary and middle school, principalship, things like that. And then students can even click into that and kind of get an idea of, okay, what exactly is this major and what schools nearby are offering it? Okay, I could study at Northeastern State University or OSU Stillwater. And so they can get a pretty good, clear idea of where these majors are offered. And so I like that too. Person matches, this will just show different jobs that are out there and students can click. So for me, I clicked on the career counselor. Let me go back one. So person matches right here. This shows me federal investigator, career counselor, prosecuting attorney. And this is based on my top 5 pathways, okay? So if I click on career counselor, as a student, I can get an idea of what a career counselor would answer for this particular question. So breakdown of responsibilities. This is what a career counselor would respond to with that question. Same with this. Was there anything that influenced you or inspired you to get into career counseling? And so forth and so on. And so that's kind of nice for students to do more exploration by actually getting a detailed interview from somebody who worked in that field or currently works in that field. So let me go back one page. So all I did was I went to my interest results, looked at my top 5 pathways, and students can click through any of these. Related opportunities is another. And so this will show our connect to business side, which will pull from any business who has entered their information into connect to business. And so you could see this is a healthcare opportunity at River Cross Hospice in Tulsa. If the student was interested in doing that, they could check into that for a work-based learning opportunity and so forth. So I'm going to go back to assessment results. And now I'm actually going to click into the professional support services right here. So I'm going to open a link in a new tab just so that I keep this page as my main page. And it's going to show me top occupations from my first pathway. So I'm in professional support services and I'm looking at occupations within that pathway. And so what students can do is they can star any of their favorites. They can click into them and get more detail about that specific occupation, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. But to kind of break down what these little symbols are. So the sunshine is, it means in demand, high demand, bright outlook is what that means. If you see a little person, whatever gender it looks like, so if it looks like a little man, then that means that there are not a lot of males in that field. And so if you see a little symbol that looks like a female, then that means there are not a lot of females in that particular position. So to use an example, if you had a female student who is interested in being a welder, she would probably see a little female symbol next to welding, just because there's not a lot of female welders. And that can be an opportunity to really, explore that with the student and encourage that if that is something that he or she wants to do. And maybe it's off the beaten path for what, you may expect for that gender. That's okay. Women can be engineers and welders, and men can be nurses, and men can work in education. And so it's an opportunity to have that discussion with the student if they ask. And I've had students ask before. So keep that in mind. But for now, I am going to click into the Educational Guidance and Career Counselors Advisors occupation. And it is going to pop up and give me lots of information. Now, if I go up here, I can print out these details, but I can also click. So I'm going to click this key. So here you can see National Bright Outlook. There's also a little green symbol, which means it's a environmentally friendly occupation. And then, as you can see, non-traditional gender opportunity. So going back down here, I can look at an overview of what, if I were a student and I thought I wanted to go into career counseling or wanted to be a high school counselor, I could get a pretty clear idea of what that will take for me to get there. And so I can look at an overview of that job, watch a little video. They're all short, about 2 minutes or so. I can click through all of these different tabs. So the first one is tasks and conditions. And so I can get an idea of, okay, well, what's my condition look like? If I were to work at a school, I would work full time, but some career counselors don't, some school counselors don't work in the summer when school's not in session. Okay. But if you work at a tech center, you may work during the summer, you may not. If you work at a college, you may work in the summer, you probably will, and so forth. So it helps them get a clear idea of expectations for where they're going to work. Are they going to work inside? Or are they going to work outside? And then they can look at the tasks for that job. Now, this is all pulled from ONET. Okay, so a lot of this may feel a little bit overwhelming to the student, so you may have them focus on the first 3 to 5 bullets. And that can tell them, does that sound like something you would enjoy? Does that sound like something you think you would, fit well with? Do you think you would enjoy that? Do you think you'd strive in that? Is that something that you want to help people with? And so that will kind of give them a clear idea. of if that's a good fit for them. They can look at interest, skills, and values. And so this is where, as they've taken all 3 assessments, it will really give them a clear picture as to how this occupation relates to their assessment results. And so they can look through interests. So this is a social occupation. You're going to communicate and teach people often. You're providing a service, and then some skills that they would see within this career. And then work values. So coworkers is strong if you're going to be a counselor, career counselor, a high school counselor. Challenge and achievement is also going to be really strong when it comes to this occupation. And then they can look at education and experience. And this is where this is nice, because it'll show them what they could expect in terms of how much education are you going to need for this particular career. And so you'll see here, most employers prefer that you have a master's. If you are going to be a high school counselor that's not emergency certified, you need a master's degree. And then if you are a high school counselor who's emergency certified, you're still going to have to take some master's level classes. And most that I know all have master's degrees. And so that's something where having that conversation, dependent on the occupation, you'll have to go to a tech center if you want to be a welder, for example, or you'll have to go and get a 2-year degree for if you want to go into, being a nanny or working in child development in some capacity. You'll probably need a 2-year degree. And so having those conversations with those students is very important. Salary and outlook is another important piece. Students can compare Oklahoma by any region, and it does compare. I always look at median nationwide versus Oklahoma, and they can even look at salary wage up here too. Another good piece is related occupations. And I think all of us know that students a lot of times start and may think, I want to be XYZ. And then they may get into it and realize, oh, maybe I don't like that as much as I thought. To me, that's a win, just as much as knowing what you want to do, because it gives them an insight into the fact that that's not the right fit. Let's reroute and see what is the right fit. And so those related occupations can give them insight and clues into other occupations that could be similar, but could provide a different salary, could provide a different opportunity in terms of maybe education and things like that. So if I didn't want to be a career counselor, maybe social work could be a good fit for me. And so if I wanted to go into social work, what would that look like? What would I have to pursue for that? Maybe I want to do training and development, which would be more HR related. And so do I want to go into an HR type field rather than working with students? Would I rather work with employees? And so it helps have that conversation with the student that they're not stuck. If they pick something, they are never stuck. There's always opportunities outside of that. And so then additional information just can lead them to the different websites if they want to look at those. And so again, that was our interest assessment. So going back, what I did, I want to walk you through that one more time. I clicked into interest assessment, and you can explore by the top 5 pathways. You can also view by national cluster ranking. Students can go through all of these tabs up here at the top, and then they can click into each different pathway and explore occupations within that pathway. So that's our interest assessment. Does anybody have questions about that so far? Very simple. I do want to switch gears for just a moment. So I'm going to take you to our website. Probably most of you have heard of this before. It is ctyoU.org, and it is our Moodle site that allows you to access our free curriculum. And so I'm going to scroll down. This is our home page, and we're going to go to counseling and career development. And when I click into counseling and career development, all these different courses, I should say, pop up, and I'm going to open up OK Career Guide curriculum. And you will see it's broken down by middle school curriculum, high school curriculum, ICAP and advisory, cluster resources, and then adult curriculum for any of those that work with adults. And then we have training materials, and we do have some scholarships that we keep up to date. If you need scholarship documents and options for your students, please feel free to look at that. But going back up, I'm just going to open up our high school 9th grade ICAP curriculum as an example. Here you will find 2 documents. We have a talking points before and a talking points after assessments. And so if I download that, I'm going to open it up, and keep in mind, I am going to email all of this to you, but I want you to feel free to go to our CTU site to access any of this. And this is essentially a script for you to help you navigate the student through the assessments before they take them. And so it walks you through all 3 assessments. And then we have a debriefing talking points after. And this will be another script for you to utilize to go through with your students after they've taken them. And it will show you all of our 12 work values, and you can walk through those with students as well. So again, I'll email those to you, but that's on our CTU site. And so going back, I'm going to go back again to our career guide side. We also have our skills confidence assessment. Again, this is something that students can dig into to have a clear understanding of what they feel like they're strong in and what they feel like they're good in. This is also an opportunity to come up here and kind of look through majors to explore and so forth. And they can also view this by national cluster ranking. And so you can see it does change a little bit for me on my interests. Architecture and construction was number 16, but now STEM is number 16 whenever I look at my skills confidence, which makes sense. I could not be an engineer, and I'm proud of anybody who can be. I have a brother and a sister-in-law who are, one's an architect and the other is a mechanical engineer. And I think that's amazing, but not for me. And so I went more of the counseling route, as you can see. And so for me, I'm going to leave that to the people who are good at STEM, but it gives a clear indication that to me, I feel like I would not be strong in that particular area. You'll see that some fall kind of in the middle. And I think this is interesting. Again, I'm going to reference you again. Please feel free to do this and compare it to what you think you know yourself as. For me, I laugh because health science falls right in the center for me. I always said I would love to go into a health field, but I don't think that I would actually like it. I think it sounds nice in theory. I don't think it's something that I would enjoy doing day in and day out. And so it helps me have a clear understanding. And if I'm being honest, I wish I had had this as a student, because I think I would have really focused and honed in on marketing, management, and human services. And I ended up in that field still, but I think it could have helped save me from some of the headaches I went through whenever it came to kind of figuring out what I like. So I think this is where this could be beneficial, is navigating through this with students. And so I'm not going to go through these top, feel free to do those as you please, but I am going to open up on my top career pathways for my skills assessment results. I'm going to open up HR. I always thought if I were to go into another field, HR would probably be it. And so when I open this up, I can again star any of these. And what's fun is that you can see training and development specialist pops up for me. That also duplicated and overlapped under my education career coach that I showed you earlier from my interest assessment results. And so you'll start to see some duplications with occupations. And so that is an opportunity to route students like, hey, here are some top things that you are really strong in. Consider looking at those if you're going to go to a tech center or if you're going to go to a college. And so it'll help them start navigating through, okay, maybe I have 5 different majors that I could be interested in, or maybe I have 3 programs at a tech center that I think I would like. So if I click into this, it will do the same thing as what you saw under our interest. It'll walk through and help me look at all the different areas for tabs for tasks and conditions, interest, skills, and work values, and so forth. So it's very similar to their interests, but it aligns better with what they feel like they are good at. And then our work values, again, I mentioned I messed up my work values earlier today, but my top work values, my number one was, I'm going to pull something up for you. My number one was supervision. And so compare that to yours if you've taken this assessment already. My number one was supervision. So that means that I want a boss that respects me, recognizes my value, is easy to talk to, and is concerned about me as a person. And so I want to, and this is important because if you're working with students who are, looking at jobs, interviewing, things like that, guide them through how to look for these things whenever they're interviewing. So for me, for example, since I know that is a top value, if I am interviewing for a job and I don't get a good impression of the manager or the supervisor in that interview, if I were offered it, I would really have to think through if I would like it or not, because I want to be able to trust and rely on who my boss is. And so having a clear understanding of what is important to them is so good, and so important. So you may see for some of your students whose parents have lost jobs, then you may see for some of your students that security is in the top 5 for them because they want a job that they know will not be taken and ripped out from under them because they saw how hard it was for their family or their guardians to get back on their feet and find another job. And so you may see that for some of your students, or you may see lifestyle for some of your students. And so what that means is they want to go to work and they want to enjoy their job, but they also want to have time outside of their job that allows them to spend time with family, friends, and so forth. And so understanding all 12 of these is great because then you can guide a student in that direction. And so like creativity, that's not a top priority for me. And so I don't really have to be incredibly creative in my current role. And since that's not a top priority, that's wonderful. I can refer to people who do have that as a work value, such as our graphic designers at Oklahoma Career Tech. And I can ask them, hey, here's what I've come up with. Can you make it pretty for me? Right. And so it helps students have a clear understanding of what they like, what they're good at, and what is most important to them. So any questions so far, feel free again to throw that in the chat. So those are our main assessments. Now I am going to go through a few more things with you, so bear with me. I want to talk through a couple of activities. If you have been on any of my calls in the past, you have heard me talk about these already, but I want to talk through with you some activities that you can do along with the assessments. So one thing I have heard from high school counselors in particular is, okay, we have them take the assessment, then what? The script that I showed you of the before and after assessments is very helpful, but if you want to do additional things besides the exploration that I showed you within the system, you could do an activity with them. So I'm going to show you this activity. I think this is really great to go along with their work values assessment. And so this first page is really for you. And so you can talk through with them, at some point when you're 16 and 18, your priorities will be different than when you're 30, 40, or 50. Same with 22 at 22 years old versus 32. At 22, maybe you want to go travel, move somewhere, go somewhere new, do something that you've never done before. But at 32, you may want to move closer to home. You may want to settle down and have a family. Who knows? It's different for every person. And so that's where this activity can be pretty fun for your students. So what I have my students do is they all stand up at the beginning after I've read off this first page that you see right here. They all stand up and I read them all of these bullet points one by one. And once something is a deal breaker, they have to sit down and they cannot stand back up. But whoever's left standing at the end will have to guess or can guess what career that was. And so you'll see this first one, athletic trainer, their salary will range between 43 and 45. They will specialize in working on bones, muscles, illnesses. They need a master's degree. They'll attend sporting events, conduct athletic intake assessments, and maintain medical records. And so then they can guess, okay, that's an athletic trainer. But it helps have the conversation that, hey, you're probably going to need a master's degree and you may have to go through additional licensure. And you may make between 43 and 45, depending on where you go. And so to them, that may not sound like much with a master's degree, or it depends on the student, right? So it also will give them a clear insight into the fact that they will be attending sporting events, but also practices. So they won't have a typical 7 to 3 or 9 to 5 schedule that other people have. They will have a schedule that ebbs and flows depending on the season. And so it helps them have an understanding of what is most important to them. Same down here. So you'll see I included, special effects makeup artist. I included an advertising spy. I just included a bunch of random ones. If I'm being honest with you, I pulled all of these from, okay, well, not all of them. I think the spy I pulled just randomly. You'll see I've got a vet tech down here. Some of them I pulled randomly offline, but most of these I pulled from OK Per Guide and just went to the tasks and conditions piece and just typed it up and made it sound a little bit fun for them so that they would enjoy the activity. But I have done this with 9th grade all the way up to seniors in college, and they all enjoy it, and it gives them some insight into different careers. So you are welcome. I'll send you a Word doc version of this so that you can make your own if you would like. And so that way you have access to this. Again, this is good for their work values assessment. Another one is our categories career agories. I just made this, and I totally made this up, and I only had 15 minutes with students, so they're short and sweet. But essentially, they will have a category. I have 1 through 4 down here. So they get this sheet, and then you keep this sheet, and you give them a letter or letters, however many you want to do, and break them into small groups and give them letters, and then tell them category 1, name jobs that allow you to travel, and so forth. And so you can totally change the categories. Again, I just made this quickly because I only had 15 minutes with groups of students. And so I did what I could, but you can make more. Like you can see down here, they only have 3 answers. You can make it where they have to give 5 answers, whatever. So I'll send you the Word docs of those so you can make them your own. Okay, so a couple of other things I want to show you because I still got about 18 more minutes with you. If you need to leave, you are welcome to, and I will send this information out to you. But I'm going to log out of my student account now, and I'm actually going to shift gears to the back end, the admin side. And so to get to the admin side, you will go to this little login and go to administrator login, and it will look like this. Now, if you do not have an account, whenever I send you an email in just a little bit, please email me and let me know what school you're with. I should know what school you're with, but just in case, just let me know what school you need an admin account for, and I can get you the information to get that set up. Because what you'll do is click create an account, and you will select educator, and then they continue. You'll fill out the personal information, create your username and your password, whatever you'd like that to be. But you do need an organization access code and a password, which I have for you. And this ties your admin account to your school. So please let me know if you do not have that, and I'm happy to get that for you. But to get there, all you do is go to administrator login. And so we are going to go ahead and log in. So again, feel free to walk through this with me, or if you would prefer, you can just watch me. So here is our admin account. And so this is where you're going to be able to pull a variety of reports, but today I'm going to focus on assessment reports. So when I go up here, you're going to see a reports tab, and you're going to see 2 different options for assessments. You're going to see an assessment reports here, and then you're going to see under activity progress reports, assessments right here. So I'm going to start with this assessments check mark box. And this is essentially, because keep in mind, this is under activity progress reports. This is essentially just going to show you students who have and have not done their assessments yet. And so when I select product, this is going to be dependent on who you're looking for. So our Cooter Navigator, that is our secondary, so middle school or high school. Cooter Journey is going to be for your adult learners, okay? So let's say Navigator in this case. And then you will see all assessments, so you can keep it that way under report details. Under select progress, you can select by any of the three, one of the three. You can either see students who have not started an assessment yet, have started but did not complete their assessments yet, or have completed. So let's just start with have not started yet. And then you can do a date range. You could do this academic year, last academic year, or other. So if you're wanting to pull by a specific time frame, you can go as far back as you would like. So we could go back to September of 2020 to today. And I can pull an individual report. So this is going to run the last 2 years of who has not done assessments yet. So when I click the individual report, it will run a list, but essentially what it tells me is a list of students who have not completed any of their assessments yet. And so you can see I've got 2,000, little over 2,000 students who have not done any of their assessments yet. I can export this to an Excel doc, and then I can go and track down that student for ICAP purposes and have them go and complete those assessments. But again, it's really only a list view. It doesn't tell you any more than that. So I'm going to go back to reports now, this tab up here. So again, this assessments piece, it really only shows you students, their progress within doing all three assessments. That's all it's going to show you. Under assessment reports, this is going to give you a lot more detail of assessment results for your students. So when I click into core, the first thing I would have you do, to me, it's easy to miss. I almost forget it. I've just gotten used to it now. But you're going to want to make sure to click the advanced options right here. And again, the product, either Navigator or Journey. Navigator is secondary, Journey is post-secondary. Keep the cluster as national clusters. You should see your school come up here, your high school. Now, if you have a district level account, it will look a little different for a district level account versus just one individual high school account. And then down here, you can select by multitude of things. So you can select or deselect by all education levels, all graduation years. So for me, I am just going to select high school, and I am just going to select 2023 to 2026. Okay, so that's going to give me 9th through 12th graders. And then here under assessment details, go ahead and just select career interest assessment. Now, again, you can do a date range. It saved my date range from the assessments I was just in from 2 years ago all the way to today. But again, you can select by recent to all the way back. And then under display options, I always select each of these. And then you're going to have 4 options of different reports to run. You can run an individual report, a 1-page summary, an aggregate, and then a top 3 report. Now, an individual report, I'm going to go ahead and open this individual report. And this is really going to show you a list of your students. And under actions right here, you can view a summary report. And this is going to show you their top 5 pathways for that student. And then you are going to be able to see their national cluster ranking. So again, I keep calling out Melissa. It's just because Melissa's using this at Moore Norman, but for Moore Norman Tech students who are going through their admission process this upcoming school year for 2023-2024, they are going to be using cluster rankings for their students. And so this would be a way for Moore Norman to go and track students' assessment results by cluster ranking. So again, that is going to show the individual report. And so you are welcome to run that, especially if you're having a one-on-one or a small group career coach session. And I had mentioned, you know, if you pulled my assessment results, you would see, okay, so we look at Sarah, her top was transportation based on the way she answered this. And so that could be a great conversation. Same with architecture. Maybe Sarah wants to go into automotive, maybe she wants to study construction, and so forth. And so it can give her opportunities to see what's out there based on those cluster rankings. So now that we've looked at that, I'm going to actually go back. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and I always click update criteria. And this takes you back to that same page, but now you'll scroll back down and click one-page summary. And so one-page summary is going to show you students through 40. So you will be able to select students 40, 41 through 80, 81 through 108. And so I'm going to start with students 1 through 40 and click view. And I like this page probably the most because I think it adds value to seeing students' results, but also seeing when they completed certain assessments. So you can see, if I'm looking at Madison, she did her interest assessment about a year ago, a little over a year ago. She did not do her skills confidence assessment. Now this third one over here is just a composite of interest and skills. But I can see that on the same day, she took her work values assessment. And so for her, I can see that these are her top. And so in comparison, that means that her workplace, she wants to be in an environment that's clean, comfortable, and free of danger. And she's interested in going into like broadcasting or marketing or design. Those are interesting for her. And so that will align with the workplace, unless she does performing arts. And we know that they can get a little wild with if they're in theater, but still is a really fun conversation to have with the student. And then you scroll down and you'll see the next student. So Jill Andrews, I can see she completed her assessment about 2 years ago for interest skills, but she didn't do work values. That's okay. And then so forth and so on. And so I do like this because you can also click up here, this little print button, and you can go ahead and print it if you would like, but you can also save as a PDF if you prefer. If you just want to save it to your desktop or to a certain folder or email it to somebody. Now, one thing that's incredibly important is you want to make sure under options that background graphics is selected. It's a little different depending on the way your computer is set up. It may say something a little different than background graphics, but if that is not selected, then it kind of grays it out, and it's a little bit harder to read. So keep that in mind, that background graphics is important to select when you are downloading or printing off this. And so this shows me a one-page summary for Madison, for Jill, Caleb, and so forth. And then I can actually go back, so I can exit out of that report and I can select students 41 through 80 and view the next group of students. Okay, going back. We also have our aggregate report, which you can run, and this is going to show you an overall report. Now mine's going to look way different than yours will, because this is showing our Oklahoma Career Tech account, and most of you are the ones that do fake student accounts within our fake school, which is Oklahoma Career Tech's fake school. And so this data is really not correct because it's going to be way higher in education and training and human services, since that's what most of you all fall under. But for your students, it should show a variety of clusters within that top area. So that's always nice. Where this can come in handy is if you want to have a guest speaker come in. And maybe your top cluster for your 10th graders is manufacturing. And so maybe you want to have somebody from a manufacturing facility come in and speak to that 10th grade class. So updating criteria, the way to do that is if you want to look at a specific grade level, is you would just deselect all of these and then look at, for example, just your 10th graders, right? And so keep that in mind that you can go down and just look at a specific grade. And then the final one is our top 3 report. This is going to show you top 3 clusters for each student. And so you can see for Jill Andrews, her top clusters were arts, audio, video, and communication. Human services was her second. Education and training was her top. Connor, his was health science, IT, and STEM. And so you can view this under actions. So if you click this little actions tab, it will open and show you. So you may remember that individual report that we pulled at the beginning shows you the exact same results here. But you can also download as an Excel doc here. So if we download that as an Excel, it will open and it will show you. I'm going to pull this over and show you a list of students and their top clusters. So I'm going to open this up a little bit more. And so then I can see each student's top clusters by 3, 2, and 1. Okay. So again, if I click actions under top 3 report, it shows me the same thing as individual report back here on that main page. So they can kind of coincide together. Okay. Perfect. Alrighty, so that's the main component of reporting for assessments that I wanted to show you today. There is one more thing I wanted to go over since I have a few more minutes of your time. If you need to get off, that's okay. But I did want to cover for ICAP purposes, the new ICAP recovery plan that came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so we can cover that if you have questions. Does anybody have questions about this particular document if you've read through it? Okay, so this is our, if you have not seen it, let me just kind of go through just briefly. This is sent out by the state. So SDE sent this out a few weeks ago, and it's essentially how to backtrack and recover any lost ICAP information from your students over the last 4 years. And when I say that, it means that students who have not done certain things for ICAP purposes and their seniors will need to go back and do certain things within OK Career Guide to make sure they meet those requirements. And so I wanted to focus on assessments today since that's what we're talking about in this training. But if you have questions about this document, please feel free to reach out. I have gotten a lot of clear information from SDE, and I've had them break it down for me so that I make sure I tell you all the right information. But if we're looking at ICAP recovery for assessments, if we're looking at this table and you see student option 1, you're going to see that student did not do an assessment 9th through 11th grade years. So they missed 3 assessments, because remember, for ICAP purposes, students have to do at least 1 career assessment each year between 9th and 12th grade years. Okay, this could be a career or college ready assessment. They could be either, it's the same thing. So if they did not do a single one, 9th through 11th grade years, they missed 3 of the required 4 that they need for graduation ICAP requirements. This will mean that their 12th grade year, so if they're seniors this year, they need to do a total of 4 assessments, and they need to do it quarterly. So they need to do 1 at a time. As you know, in Career Guide, we only offer those 3, which is the interest, skills, and work values. And so students can take all 3 of those as seniors. And then I did want to show you this link. Free career. We have a 4th, or I have a 4th I can give you. It's under the Truity website here. And I really love this website. This could provide students a fourth career assessment for that fourth that they need to make up if they need to as seniors. And so they can go up here and they can see we've got Enneagram, 16 types, which is MBTI, Big Five, DISC, career aptitude, and so forth. And so students can take any of these. So we've got match your personality to the right career, discover your Holland Code. I love Holland Code. If you're not familiar, it's the realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, conventional careers. And so students could do any one of those for their fourth required assessment. Now, keep in mind, that is only if they did not do any between 9th and 11th grade years. If they did, then they only have to do, if they did one between those 3 years, they only have to do 3 assessments, which Career Guide provides, and so forth. So let me see. So Angela or Ashley, since you're in place of Angela, if they take all 3, so interest, skills, work values this senior year, and they didn't take any prior to this senior year, they will need to take a fourth. And so again, that website, and I will email this to you guys so that you have it, just in case you even want to use it for your adult learners. But they will have to take a fourth as seniors if they did not take a single one between 9th and 12th or 9th and 11th grade years. Okay, because keep in mind they have to have 4 career assessments total for graduation purposes for ICAP. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, great. Okay, it is 2:31, and that is everything I wanted to cover. I will email all of you this information along with a PD certificate in case you would find that useful. But if you have any questions, you will have my contact that way, and you are welcome to call or email anytime. I so appreciate your time during this hour and hope to see you guys soon. If you need anything, holler at me. But otherwise, have a great afternoon. Bye, guys. You're so welcome.